Challenges of adopting nibblings when not suitable. My understanding of the events in this story may be incomplete as I was on the sidelines. My M38 sister Sasha F35 and I are not close. On top of having very different interests, I really don't like kids, and she's the type of person who can't comprehend other people not wanting kids. Our rift widened even further when I questioned her decision to have kids and refused to be an involved Funkle ATM. She kept trying to force her kids onto me, so I went LC. Unfortunately, Sasha proved me right. She really struggled and ended up committing suicide 2 years ago. Worse yet, both of her kids, Amy F13 and Tim L11, found her body, and a suicide note in which she admitted to regretting having children. The baby daddies were not and should not ever be considered for guardianship. My mom, F62, took in the kids and put them in therapy. She recently received a terminal cancer diagnosis, and no one is willing to take in the kids. I was named as the preferred guardian, and Sasha's will know. I don't know what Sasha was thinking, and now many are looking to me to step up. Despite a hefty amount of backlash, I refused. I know myself well enough to confidently say that I would be abusive as a parent. Furthermore, blood isn't important to me, and my relationship with Sasha and/or her kids aren't strong enough for me to have an obligation to the kids. And most importantly, I simply don't want to. About 2 months ago, my mother became desperate. She started feeding the kids stories about how apparently Sasha and I were BFFs and how I really wanted to adopt them but feared rejection, and how we would all be a happy family if only my fears could be resolved. She was apparently planning to have the kids surprise me with adoption papers during the upcoming family reunion to coerce me into adopting them. I refused to play her game. I made up an excuse to skip the reunion and have been avoiding my mother. What I failed to anticipate was my mother using a luncheon with my aunt as a setup. Fortunately for me, I was able to see my mother and the kids approaching from a distance. We were sitting outside at a cafe and got the heck out there before they could trap me. The kids have regressed into a downward spiral. Many are blaming me, saying that I made the kids feel unwanted, that I should have just said yes, and even the more sympathetic ones think that I could have handled it better. I am being hounded by my relatives, but I don't see how I'm responsible. Yes, me borderline running away during the luncheon with an OS look on my face probably helped the kids connect the dots, but it was never my responsibility to cover for my mother's lies. She set the kids up for heartbreak, knowing very well that I already rejected them and would have never agreed to be their guardian. So tell me, Reddit, Ada. First comment. NTA. This is the same logic of people who have kids use on anyone who is child-free, especially women. Oh, you'll feel different once you have them. No is a complete sentence. You don't want kids, and no, you will probably not be a good parent. The simple fact that you were VLC contact because your sister tried to force the relationship speaks volumes. Those children have been through a lot of trauma already. No matter where they end up, whether or not it is with someone in your sister's family, they are going to need a lot of therapy. And it does not sound like that is something you would be either willing or capable of dealing with. I am sorry for your loss and feel badly for the kids. They need to be in a stable home with someone who actually wants them. Those who tell you to step up need to be the ones to do it. It takes a very strong person to admit that they would be a bad parent. Not many people have the courage to admit that to themselves, much less anyone else. But it takes a different kind of strength to be a parent. Second comment. I'm staunchly child-free, I get you, but God, do I feel bad for these kids. No one wants them, not even their mother. That has to be soul-crushing. I don't know how they'll ever come back from that fully. You're not the asshole for knowing that you wouldn't be a good parent and not letting people peer pressuring you into becoming an abusive parent. People seem to understand for them that putting kids under their roof does not make them able to parent, but seem to think that the situation is different for you because you share DNA with these kids. I just feel sad for your mom and for your nibblings. Also, the public in general needs to hear more stories like your sister's. They still seem to generally think that 1, all women want kids, and 2, no one ever regrets having kids. It's all rainbow and gravy once you take the dive. Nah. You're not to blame for not wanting to be a parent. The children are not to blame for being orphaned and manipulated. Your mother is not exactly to blame. She's dying, and she would like the kids to be with family instead of being sent to the system. It's a horrible system. It's dismissive of your own boundaries, but she's doing this out of love for them. Competing notions of good and all that. I feel for her. Story 2. I don't want my sister's BF to propose on my wedding day. But everyone is against me, and my mom said I was ungrateful because my parents are paying for the wedding. The wedding is on Saturday, and they just told me that last Monday. This was going to be a part of his speech. I said no, so my mom suggested that I would, instead of tossing the bouquet, I would go and give it to her like on TikTok, and he would propose. I said no. My mom got angry when I still said please no, because this suggestion would be at the end of my party anyway. and wouldn't steal from my party. I am not good at writing these things, so I am sorry if I am leaving out plenty, but I can't stop crying. Aita. Sometimes I feel that I am, sometimes I feel I am not. I want to stay anonymous, so I will not be answering questions about my location or names. First comment. NTA. Anything someone does to take the attention away from the bride and groom on their wedding day is a garbage thing. It's your special day, not theirs. Grow a shiny spine and put your foot down. Tell your mom either she drops it or you tell your sister what she's asking, and all three of them will be uninvited. Tell your sister's boyfriend that if this is his plan, you will uninvite him from the wedding, and even if he promises not to, as of right now you will have friends shadowing him the entire time, and give them explicit instructions to immediately toss him if he tries anything. Give explicit instructions to the wedding and reception staff to not allow your mom, sister, or the boyfriend to make any announcements. Second comment. NTA. I would tell your parents and your sister's boyfriend that if they don't stop this selfish nonsense, you will undermine them all, and just tell your sister to expect a proposal and how her idiot boyfriend is trying to cheap out on her by stealing your wedding reception as a joint wedding and engagement party. The surprise element will be ruined completely, and he will look really bad for being a cheap ass. The other option is for you and your groom to go first with the speeches and make a huge deal about how much you appreciate each and every one of your guests for coming to your wedding and allowing the two of you to have this one day purely about celebrating the two of you. Thank you all so much for putting us first just for one day. Then have your fiancé's best man say in his speech if anyone besides the bride and groom have any personal announcements to make, then tomorrow is an ideal day to do it, because today is all about the bride and groom. If the boyfriend has the brass balls to propose publicly at the wedding after that, there's nothing that would have stopped him, but most people would feel shamed into keeping their silence. Story 3. Ada, I kicked my golden child sister out of my wedding after she hijacked the event with a pregnancy announcement. Did I overreact? Hi everyone. I'm devastated after what happened at my wedding and need your help to determine if I'm in the wrong. I'm from another country and we had our ceremony back home, where traditions are very strict. My sister, who lives abroad and is always treated as the golden child of the family, turned my special day into a nightmare. She showed up in a breathtaking wedding gown and over-the-top design with a floor-length train, intricate lace, a glittering tiara, and a veil that seemed to go on forever. It felt like she was trying to overshadow me on my own wedding day. My sister has always been the family's golden child. She gets lavish gifts, endless praise, and her wedding expenses are even going to be fully covered by our parents. Every family event has revolved around her. While I've often felt overshadowed, her engagement and wedding were treated like major media events, while my own wedding planning was sidelined. Despite my frustration, I decided to let her stay because she had contributed significantly to the wedding preparations, and I didn't want to create drama right away. I hoped that eventually the focus would return to my partner and me. That was a huge mistake. During the reception, my sister decided to turn the entire event into her own personal show. She announced that she was pregnant and made it the centerpiece of the celebration. She gave a lengthy, tearful speech about how her pregnancy was the real miracle of the day, presented a baby on board cake that looked like it belonged at a fancy event, and insisted everyone raise a toast to her future child. My wedding, which was supposed to be about my partner and me, became all about her. At that point, I reached my breaking point. I couldn't let this farce continue, so I asked her to leave. This led to a massive family blow-up. My parents, who have always treated her as the golden child, are furious and claim I overreacted. They think I should have let her have her moment. Meanwhile, my friends and in-laws are on my side, saying I had every right to protect my wedding from her disruptive behavior. I apologize if my English isn't perfect. So, Ada, for kicking my sister out of my wedding after initially letting her stay, considering her nearly identical wedding dress and her dramatic pregnancy announcement? Thanks for your feedback. First comment. After reading these stories about pregnancy announcements and proposals at weddings, I think there is one course of action that the bride and groom could follow. If they learn ahead of time that someone plans to propose or announce a pregnancy, they should make an announcement at the start to the effect of "Thanks for coming." Before we get started, we just want everyone to know that Bill plans to propose to Sally during the reception and Karen plans to announce her pregnancy. Now that we got that over with, let's get on with the reason we are all here today. Alternatively, they could make a social media post a few days before the wedding saying the same thing. It will take the wind out of the sails of those tacky enough to pull this stunt. Second comment. Wow, so this isn't just a Western thing. Talk about shameful. Your parents should be ashamed of your sister, but instead are making you the bad guy for her non-traditional actions during a traditional celebration. I'd advise talking to your partner and seeing about leaving your parents. Low contact or no contact until they apologize and make amends properly. It's beyond shameful to hijack your event and then to be upset at you for doing what your parents should have done, which is kept your sister in check. I'd also put the whole thing on blast and let the family and friends shame them into backing off and apologizing. If they refuse, then they don't need to be involved in your married life. Keep your husband, you, and any future kids away from them until they improve their behavior.